So recently that's how he's been going to sleep, dancing himself to sleep. Today I'm going to talk about f-stop or aperture, depth of field. They're all related. This is the aperture. This is actually the physical device. I'm going to go ahead and look at my phone so that I know if you're in focus or not. Okay. That right there, that is the aperture. What it's going to do is control the amount of light that's coming in through the lens and increase or decrease your depth of field. And what the depth of field is your area in focus. So you can see my face is in focus. My depth of field is probably like this big. This is good for isolating your subjects. It's a really easy way to direct the eye in a photograph. And then there's the opposite, which is a big aperture, or I guess really small aperture. So this is f2.8. This is opened all the way up. If you want to stop down, all the way down to f22, the hole becomes really small. What this is gonna do is make everything in focus, not literally, but it's going to bring your depth of field to a much longer range. So instead of seeing just my face, you'd also see all of that in focus. And I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, did I wake him up? No. I'm gonna go lower his chair really quick. He's sleeping like this. f22, really small hole. f2.8, really big hole. If you want to show someone, if you want to show the area around it, because that is part of the story you're trying to convey in this image. Good thing to be able to control that, to be able to control your depth of field. Another thing to think about when using your aperture in a photo, the depth of field increases the further you are away from your subject. So I'm only getting that lens in focus. The further it moves back, the greater that depth of field is gonna be. So I move it closer and it's gonna shrink without me changing my f-stop. Let's see if I can do this. So how close can I get without me getting too close? Okay, so background, extremely blurry at this point. And the further I move back, keep focusing on me, the more things come into focus, or the bigger the depth of field gets. I mean, up there I was probably like this big, and I was like this big. Let's see, I'll move back a little more. And the further back I am, the more things are in focus. I think it's still focused on the couch, so that was a bad example. That's one thing to know, because you could use a really small aperture. You could use an f2.8 and still get a perfectly crisp picture of a mountain. Say you have, I don't know, 100 yards in focus, just because of how far you are away from that mountain. Another example from my classes, at the beginning we had two different assignments. We had one for shutter speed and one for f-stop. The ones for f-stop, we had to take one at a really small aperture and get a really shallow depth of field, and another one at a high aperture being emphasized to get a really large depth of field. He wanted the subject to be at least 10 feet from the camera. So that means that your main focus is kind of close to the camera. That's in focus, but also the background is in focus. Nothing is blurry. The reason I wanted this is so that we could understand how f-stop works and not just use one f-stop to get both photos. And I'm gonna take one picture with the smallest aperture that I have on whatever lens I'm using. Maybe I should just use this lens. Yeah, I'll use this lens. So I'll take one at the smallest aperture on the lens, and then I'll go ahead and take the exact same picture. Let's say I'll move it up to f11, and then I'll move another one up past that to whatever the maximum is of the lens. You can get really dramatic effects with a small focal plane, with a small depth of field. So as you can see in this first photo, we have the shallow depth of field, and in this one, we're only gonna get that leaf, and the background should just be nice and smooth. You're concentrated on the leaf immediately. And then the further we go up on that f-stop, the more closed down the aperture blades are, the more in focus it's gonna be, but also the less light we're gonna be taking in. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the shutter speed down on this. Take into consideration, if you want that large depth of field, you're gonna have to bring a tripod or make sure you have a lot of light so that you can adjust for having less light with that aperture. So I went and volunteered for 48 Hour Film Festival with some of my fellow filmmakers from East Hollywood High School. So anyways, I went and I did second AC, that's second assistant camera. And what that entailed was, or at least for this shoot, was doing slate and then also taking down camera notes. And that's not that much for a second AC, honestly. They do a lot. I just gotta give a hand to all the second ACs out there. If you our second AC on a real set. Good on you. Fucking, it's a lot of work. I was stressed. Not really, it was fun. But whatever. I'm gonna be shooting my best friend's sister's wedding here very shortly. I'll be heading to Alabama to shoot next week. Fucking clean my bathroom. That's not interesting. I don't know why I filmed that. Lawnmower. I think that's it. That's everything. Next time I'll be talking about ISO, maybe some ways to avoid using it. I mean, you can use it to get a certain effect, but then again, you can always just use the lower ISO. I'll get into it when I do the video. Next video, ISO, gonna do that. These videos aren't meant to be the most informative, but I wanna get better, and I'm gonna keep doing it no matter how much they suck. I just keep filming because I feel like I didn't film enough, and I've probably been filming for like fucking 12, 15 minutes. Why do I keep saying the F word? That's like the only swear word I've used on this, and it's like one of the bad ones. I guess not one of the worst ones. I could say other things. Shh. Shh, papa. Yeah, that went nowhere. Okay, I'm done. I get more upbeat the more I film, so I want to keep filming. I could just re-film it all and then just discard all of this first stuff, but I don't want to do that. So yeah, I could play some guitar, but I'm not gonna. I'm done.